What's going on, guys? JSGC here, back again for another Manchester City video. Today we're going to be doing my match reaction, match analysis and match review of Manchester City's heavy 4-0 defeat at home to Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. 5 losses in a row for Manchester City. Where do we go from here? What do we do about this? How do you end this blip? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Really interested. Hoping that this is going to be a good way to be able to engage and come up with some solutions and have a really good civil, put some emphasis on civil conversations out there about Manchester City's poor form. So do subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do leave a thumbs up and do go and check out my social media links, which you can find in the description. So let's speak then about Manchester City. We lost 4 games in a row, had a couple of weeks off due to the international break. The international break was well timed for Manchester City. A good chance for quite a few players to recharge their batteries, to get Pep Guardiola onto a new contract. We had a quiet international break for the first time in a little while, and I think we was all appreciative of being able to have just a couple of weeks where we don't have to think about football on a constant basis every 3 to 4 days and playing your next games. And this game was a perfect opportunity to show that City were feeling rejuvenated, refreshed, put in a really good performance and really kick on and go from there. For Spurs, they just lost to Ipswich Town before the international break. They've got injuries themselves. Ange Postecoglou's going in under a heap of pressure, and Tottenham Hotspur had a real point to prove. Took a lot of confidence away from their League Cup victory over Manchester City, and they executed a game plan here to perfection. So firstly, I'm going to spend the next minute or so speaking about Tottenham Hotspur, what they did really well, because what they did deserves a lot of credit. There aren't many teams that have the audacity to come to the Etihad, attack Manchester City, play football and look to try and humiliate Manchester City. Yet Tottenham Hotspur managed to do so, doing it by being incredibly clinical, exposing how bad Manchester City's stretched defence is. That gap between midfield and defence is horrific. Whether you think that's down to formation, or the players are tired, or the players are aging, or poor business moves in the market, or Rodri's injury, etc., etc. Maybe it's a mix of just about everything, but Tottenham exposed that really well. And what Tottenham have done now is set the benchmark for all teams, not necessarily playing against Manchester City this season, but more teams that are coming to the Etihad and what they need to do. Because a lot of teams think, oh, Man City have got loads of attacking quality, I'm going to park the bus. I'm going to low block, I'm going to 10 men behind the ball. We're not going to offer anything. We're going to go anti-football. And they're going to hope that Man City have an off day when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net, like Man City had in this game. The only difference is Tottenham had come to play football. Tottenham had come to the Etihad to win this game, to score goals, to play really good football and be extremely clinical in front of goal. James Maddison, Dejan Kulusevski, outstanding. And Manchester City, quite simply, couldn't cope. My big problem that I had, and I firmly believe that the midfield decides a football game. Football games are won or lost in midfield. Spurs have got a lot of runners in there, lots of energy, lots of points to be proven. Yet Manchester City didn't have anything to be able to offer to counter Tottenham Hotspur. Now, Tottenham Hotspur encounter all kinds of problems when they're not necessarily taking on the biggest and best teams in the Premier League, but it's when they're going up against teams where they don't know how to break them down. Ipswich Town executed a perfect performance against Tottenham Hotspur at their own stadium just a couple of weeks ago. We're looking at, and this is a fact, 2 weeks ago, this team lost at home to Ipswich Town, have just come to the Etihad, outplayed Manchester City and battered us 4-0. How does that happen? Football, it's a strange game. Love it or loathe it, it is a very, very strange game. And, you know, there's a ton of reasons, there's loads of theories about why that is, but being able to get your head around it, it's mesmerising. It's what, to me, makes the Premier League the Premier League. It's what makes English football so beautifully unpredictable that literally anything can happen. And if anything, it emphasises really how difficult it is in the Premier League to win it, because any team's capable of beating anyone when you think about it. As long as a team plays to the best of their ability and the other team has an off day, then teams are capable of going to the biggest and best teams away from home and capable of beating them. And it emphasises that you want to win games, you've got to have a 10 out of 10 performance every single game. You dip anything below, you're running the risk of dropping points. Now, Man City, injury-free, have one of the best squads in Europe. The squad is stretched thin. They have injuries. They can't cope. Rodri, huge absentee. Leadership at the back. Ruben Diaz, huge absentee. Take away that from Manchester City. Man City are lacking a lot of organisational skills on the pitch. They're lacking a lot of leadership on the pitch as well. Becomes even more difficult for Manchester City. No Kovacic in midfield. An injury to John Stones, who seems like he's made of glass. City are really struggling. City haven't been ruthless enough over the last 2 summer transfer windows, and that's why we find ourselves where we're at. Average age of today's team was just under 28 years old for Manchester City. That's the average age of the 11. You've got players who are still yet to really enter into their prime, the likes of Rico, Lewis, Savinho on the pitch, helping to bring that average age of the squad. But I look towards the experienced players, and it's these experienced players that I really want to see more from, and I think this is where, to me, the problem lies. Kyle Walker, shown at the end, fresh legs of Timo Werner. The pace is done. Kyle Walker's a brilliant defender when he's got the pace. You take the pace away from Kyle Walker, Man City have a decision to make about Kyle Walker. Because long term, it just won't work for City. It can't work. Ilkay Gundogan, 12-month deal, sentimental value, brilliant. We all love Ilkay Gundogan. Sometimes, though, it's not best to come back because the pace has gone. He hasn't got the legs. We're looking at it from a ruthless point of view. Again, pedestrian in midfield. And if you're going to coast through in midfield and you've not got the legs or the energy to cope with teams who have got that energy and freshness about them, they're going to make a mug of you. Rico Lewis, to me, looked a little out of his depth today. Why? Because you're asking him to go into midfield. We're not going up against a team here who's parking the bus and he's going to have time and space on the ball. You're talking about a team that as soon as he touches the ball, 2 or 3 players are going to be around him, on him. And it's very difficult for a player. It takes the very best of a player to be able to thrive and be able to show the quality. Rico Lewis, he's going to need a lot of time. He's still a good 3, 4, maybe even 5 years away from getting towards that level that we're looking for. Great learning curve, great for him to get more minutes, but at the moment, with what Man City are looking for, they want to be competing for the Premier League. I don't know how you can find yourself in such a situation that you're relying on a right-back to be playing in central midfield against a team that's got so much energy in midfield. That game, to me, today, was lost on the team sheet and looking at that midfield. And Man City lack ideas. It's frustrating that it took until 70 plus minutes for things to be changed. De Bruyne coming on and Jack Grealish coming on, but there's no real leadership on the pitch. Everyone just kind of stands around looking and shrugging, and to me it's very frustrating. There's a lack of willingness to win, and it becomes very difficult from a motivation point of view that when you're a team that's won everything that there is on offer and you've broken all kinds of records, not having that motivation there becomes very difficult. That's why Man City are so good in the second half of the season. It gives them that burning hunger and desire that's not quite there in the first half of the season. So if there is a team that's going to show outstanding consistency in the first half of the season, you're more than likely going to go on to win the Premier League. That's how Liverpool managed to do that during the 2019-2020 season. They end up running away with it due to their extreme consistency through the first half of the season. Man City are notoriously very good in the second half of the season, so it's always about trying to keep it as compact and as tight as possible. And what we've done with this poor run of form, 3 losses in the Premier League in a row, is allowing Liverpool to build a gap to a point that if they win tomorrow away against Southampton, they go into a match next weekend, our next Premier League game, we're going away at Anfield, a ground that's just not a happy hunting ground for Manchester City, especially when there's fans inside the stadium. So you're going to have to presume that the result that we normally have is going to happen again and we're going to lose, and if that is the case, then Manchester City, we're going to struggle to win the Premier League from the position that we're in. Really going to struggle. At the moment, the gleaming hope that I have is we've still got to play Liverpool twice. So we can pick up 6 points, maximum points against Liverpool, gives you an opportunity. But I'm going to go as far to say if City, with the form that we've got right now, you can't lose 3 Premier League games in a row and lose 5 games in a row and expect to have success come the end of the season. The only way you're going to do that is through beating the teams around you and doing doubles over them. We've already not beaten Arsenal. We have beaten Chelsea. We've still got to play Liverpool away from home next weekend. We've got to beat Liverpool away next weekend if we want to win the Premier League. Anything short, I'm not saying never, but I don't think City will win the Premier League. My concern now is this form continues into the Feyenoord game midweek. This continues into the weekend. It continues into the game against Nottingham Forest. It continues into the match against Crystal Palace. It continues into the match against Juventus. The schedule gets no easier. And I feel like Man City are desperate for 1 or 2 games, consecutive games that are really easy on paper, where you're just going to have a team that's going to park the bus, who's going to offer no real threat for City going forward, that they can preserve some energy, bring some players back from injury and coast a couple of games, pick up maximum points from them games, take some confidence, end the rut and move on from there. Not how it works in competitive football. Not how it works at all. It's a must-win game on Tuesday against Feyenoord, a team that's played 4, lost 2 games at home, but won both their away games, including a very impressive away win against Benfica. Not going to be an easy game for Manchester City. And if City just turn up and think that they're just going to waltz the game and win that game and pick up an easy 3 points, they're in for a rude awakening. And the Champions League could become very difficult. And at the moment, it can be suggested that the Champions League could hold the key to whether Man City end up having a very successful season or not come the end of the season. Plenty for Man City to ponder, plenty for City to think about, plenty for Pep Guardiola to think about. Obviously want to get to January, try and bring a couple of players in, which is a necessity as far as I'm concerned. But you've got to keep yourself competitive to get to January. And at the moment, January seems so far away. Spurs, brilliant. Kulusevski, James Maddison, absolutely fantastic today. City, far and away, really poor. As said on my live stream, embarrassingly poor from Manchester City today. Not really good enough. Got to improve for Tuesday night and that match against Feyenoord. Obviously, we're looking ahead towards Anfield next weekend as well. Plenty for Manchester City to think about. Worrying times. How do you solve it? What are your solutions? Get your thoughts, guys, in the comments, because I'm really interested to know what you think Man City can do to try and end. It's not even a little rut anymore. I've been mentioning it before. A molehill becoming a mountain. At the moment, this molehill's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'd say right now, this molehill's become a hill. And this goes on for another 2-3 weeks. That hill becomes a mountain. Worrying times. Love to know your thoughts, guys, in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up. That would be much appreciated. Do subscribe if you're new around here. And do go and check out my social media links, which you can find in the description. I'm going to take a day off tomorrow just to try and regroup and get things together. I'll be back again on Monday with my preview for Manchester City's huge Champions League game now against Feyenoord. Manchester City, we want to make things easier, not harder. We win against Feyenoord. I'd say we're back on track towards trying to finish in the top 8 ahead of trips to Turin against Juventus and to Paris against PSG. City don't win against Feyenoord. Maybe looking like Man City are going to have to settle for finishing in the top 24 places and take their look on a playoff game, which means not only are we playing an extra 2 games in the Champions League from the league phase, you're playing an extra 2 games as well through February to try and get to the last 16. Love to know your thoughts, guys. Get them in the comments below. So I've been JSGC. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope everyone is safe and well. Peace. Ciao for now. I went back to my lucky red shirt, see if it would work. Superstition, all wrong. Calling a timeout.